So today I'm going to show you guys exactly how my student went from making $250,000 a year to $500,000 a year in just a matter of moments. And you might think that's like extremely far-fetched or that's extremely out of the possibility. But here's the reality. If you think that, that's a limiting belief on your end. And I want to show and share why this happens so often with a lot of my students. All of my students come into the academy and they typically have some sort of a scarcity mindset. They feel like they have a lot of debt. They feel like they can't get ahead. They feel like they're, trying to invest, but they can't figure it out. They feel like they're so far behind in retirement. They just feel like they don't have enough. And the reality is, with their incomes being over six figures, they do have enough. And if they utilize the program and the tools that we have at their fingertips, the resources, the coaching we have, the one-on-one, coaching we have, there's no reason that not every last one of them can be extremely successful. And the reason I love this story of Miranda that I'm going to share with you today is because this is me a couple years ago, like not that long ago. When I was 23, I guess it's a little long ago. It's like 11 years ago. Actually, I was 22. So 11 years ago, I'm 33 today. 11 years ago, my wife and I were operating from the same mindset that Miranda came into the academy with, that most of my students come into the academy with. It's kind of a scarcity mindset. It feels like you can't get ahead. It feels like you got to have all of your money to put towards debt, to put towards investments. It feels like you can't really live life. You can't go on vacations. You can't have fun. And that's a horrible place to be. But until you decide and choose to fix that, you're going to consistently feel like that. And so what I'm going to share today are some lessons that Miranda learned along the journey and also things that I learned along the journey. And they're very, very similar in nature. So when Miranda came in, I'm going to share my screen and show specifically, guys, what her process was. But I'm going to share the first post that Miranda left because this is extremely powerful for anybody out there that's wondering, like, how do I do this? How do I get ahead? The first thing she said was just like all my other students kind of feel in the beginning. Maybe they don't say it. Maybe they keep it quiet. Maybe they feel ashamed towards it, but it's a very similar feeling. Sweaty palms is how this is titled. Walking through the modules, this is such a huge thing for me. Palms are sweaty and anxiety. I'm terrified of my finances. So I'm going to stop there. If you feel like that, just realize that you're very normal, and that's a very normal feeling that a lot of people experience. And the difference between somebody that experiences that and stays in that bubble versus somebody that experiences that and jumps out of that bubble is a literal life of difference. If you stay in that bubble and you let your anxiety hold you down, you let the pressure of your finances weigh you down, you will never live the life you want to live. You can ignore your finances, you can neglect them, you can think you kind of skip over this podcast and think, it is whatever. Or you can take a second to just reflect inside and say, I have an opportunity. My family, the way I live every single day, if I really look internally, there is so much pressure weighing on me because of my finances. And if I don't address this, which seems insurmountable at this moment, I'm going to stay in the same spot. And I don't want you to feel like that. Now, different people have different personalities. I can tell you this, when I had the issue we had with our finances at 22 years old, I looked at that as a big, tall task, but I also looked at it as a challenge. And so the way I framed that in my mind was like, I'm a very competitive person. I really want to win. And so when I saw that, I saw it as an opportunity. So when I saw the $304,000 of debt in front of us, I was like, yeah, I want to attack that. It does feel like a tall task, but how can I break this down in bite-sized chunks so I can get the momentum factor behind me? And so that's exactly what we did, my wife and I. And the first debt we paid off was $3,500. And then from there was more and more momentum, and it just got easier and easier and easier. The hardest part, without question, is starting. It's like running a marathon. When you're running a marathon, the first part is like the most daunting because it's like 26.2 miles. And you start running, you're like, wow, I have a long time ahead of me. You get in that like lap, mile 2, mile 3, you start feeling a little bit of juice. You start feeling some like, momentum, and it starts pushing you through. Then you're a mile 10, you're like, wow, I'm actually like almost halfway. And then you're halfway. Then you get over the hump and you're more than halfway. And it slowly and steadily builds to the point you look backwards and you're like, wow, I'm closer to the finish line than when I started. That's exactly how your finances will be and how they're going to play out. I know that for a fact because I've lived this real time and I've seen this with thousands of students. Guys, we have over 2,000 students that we worked with. To say I know people is an understatement. I know the psychology makeup of an individual the second they walk in, the second they open their mouth. I know exactly how they're going to operate. I know exactly which direction they need to go. And I relay that to all my coaches on the team. And it's very easy to be able to tell when you work with a lot of people. It's a skill set. And so Miranda was no different than a lot of my students. And so she walked through this process and she realized, like, thanks for the, as you can see on the screen as well, if you're not listening to this, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for the amazing way the Budget Dog team handles this. It's so approachable. And that's an important piece of the conversation. When Miranda made the investment in herself, she made the investment in us. She knew that we had the potential to get over the hump that she was struggling with because the way we approach it. There's a lot of people that talk about personal finance online. There's a lot of people that talk about personal finance in general. The key is being able to take that information, digest that information, but also apply that information to yourself. You can go on Google, you can go on YouTube, you can go on my podcast like you're listening now. You can do all these different things, but at the end of the day, you can even read my national bestseller, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom. This guy's great. You can't probably see it on the screen right now, but it's their national bestseller, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom, because it mirrors the academy. You can do all these things, but to apply it to your situation is extremely challenging. And that's where our team comes into play. That's where I work with you one-on-one to get you to that level. And so when she made that investment, she realized that for once, she finally found the right team. That is the most important piece of this conversation. If you can have a mentor to push you forward, to be able to understand where you're at, to meet you where you're at, so that you don't feel nervous, you don't feel anxiety, that's where you're going to win very, very big. And so as I share this story with Miranda, I want you to remember that investing in yourself is the most important piece of this conversation. But when you invest in yourself, and this could be in many different ways, this isn't just specifically financial help or financial education. This is everything in your life. Take this lesson and really think about it, okay? Because if you take a shot and miss, and I think a lot of people do this, and they operate from a place of fear and scarcity. You take a shot and miss. You're in the same spot as you always were. Think about that. You're afraid to start your business, aren't you? You're afraid to apply for that new job, aren't you? You're afraid to start something new, aren't you? There's a reason I'm saying this, is because I know people and I know you. Somebody listening to this right now is experiencing what I just said. You're afraid to start because you're afraid you're going to fail. And if you're afraid you're going to fail, you're never going to start, and therefore you're going to stay in the same spot. And if you did start and you took the shot and you did fail, you'd be right where you're at today. So why not start? Think about that for a second. I think it's a really important concept. I think a lot of people are so afraid to fail for whatever reason, different reasons across the board. Sometimes people don't want the judgment from, family and friends. Sometimes people just have too big of an ego to ask for help. There's all sorts of things. But let me tell you a story. There are multiple times in my journey that I took a shot, $25,000 shot, recently, as of today. And this is not just this is a literal today thing. Took a $26,000 shot in making an investment in my business. It did not work out. It did not pan out. Am I upset about it? No. I took the shot and I'm back where I'm at. But actually, in fact, I'm a little further than where I was at, because now I learned a lot. We've applied a lot of the concepts we did learn from that failed investment. And we actually got closer as a team with communication. So we actually moved forward. Now, I can't quantify what that means. But what I can say is we moved forward. And if we didn't take that shot, we probably would have stayed in limbo for a lot longer of amount of time. But we decided to take that shot. So now we're moving faster. We learned quicker. We failed quicker. And we got to the top quicker. That's exactly what Miranda did. She got nervous, but she took the shot. And that shot just so paid off. And so if you're sitting there and you're worried to apply for that new job, to ask the girl of your dreams out, whatever the case is, you want to make an investment for your business, you're afraid it's going to fail. This is your message from me to you to invest in yourself once and for all. Because if you're sitting there struggling, your life's not going to get better if you just keep thinking about it. Invest in yourself in a big, big way. There's been multiple times where I've invested in myself and it's worked out majorly. Like so many times. I could count so many times on my fingers of how many times I've invested in myself and it worked out in a major way. And because that, I'm speaking to you from my house on a Thursday afternoon with no agenda today. My daughter, I'm literally watching, you can't see this, outside my window right now. I'm watching my wife and my two children, my two daughters, go on a walk on a beautiful Thursday afternoon because of the investments we made in ourselves 11 years ago. And what we continue to do throughout that time, is continue to invest in ourselves. And some of those were big L's. Some of those were bad judgment. Some of those didn't work out. Some of those didn't pan out to where I wanted them. But I made progress with every failed investment as well. And I continued to invest in myself. And the more I invested in myself, the more money I actually made because I invested in my skill sets. I invested in education. I invested in mentorship. I invested in access to skill sets of people that know more than I do. So I paid people to come into my business and work on it for me. And I didn't know how to do it, but I learned it because I paid for them. I paid premium. I wasn't being cheap. If you looked at me 11 years ago, maybe let's call it 12 years ago before I started this journey, if you told me to spend any amount of money, I'd be like, I get really tight. I have sweaty palms like Miranda. But guess what? I was broke. Guess what? I had a negative $8,000 net worth. Guess what? I was going nowhere fast. And then I started to change the mindset. When I got around the right mentors and right people through my job at Deloitte, I was like, wow, these people are like really wealthy. What are they doing that I'm not doing? And I have a whole podcast of my 3 Deloitte mentors you can search as well. And it taught me so much. And I'm speaking from a place today of experience because I've actually lived and done this, but also I've seen this play out real time for other people. And so when I first did this journey, I wasn't as confident as I am now. So when I went through this journey, there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of questioning. There was a lot of like, what if this doesn't work? But I started changing the mindset. What if this does work? What if this works at an incredible amount, a credible rate to where everything works out and I only improve my life? I'm going to wave to my wife and daughter if they're looking inside. Uh, but if this does work out, what happens? Ask yourself that. For once in your life, think abundance. Think if I invest in myself, if I put resources into myself, I bring smart people into my business or around me, and they do things on a practical basis that they've gotten a lot of success with, why can't I get success? Because I've worked with 2,000 people. We're talking a lot of these people are becoming millionaires at a quicker rate than I was. I became a millionaire within a 7.5-year period. So about 22 and a half, 23, kind of when we started, to about 30 years old on the dot. 7.5 years. If I can do the right math. Yeah, 7.5 years. That 7.5-year journey, there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of losses. But at the end of it, we won. I'm going to share another story here shortly about how we overcame a ton of loss. Basically, I feel like the last 4 months, as of literally yesterday, I feel like the last 4 months was like just straight losing, like in every aspect of our life. But I'll share that and I'll explain that with Miranda's story as well. The second thing that Miranda experienced during this spiritual journey, not even just financial journey, is the freedom when she owed nobody. Share another piece of her puzzle here. This is a really, really good piece of the story. So when she was going through this process, I'm going to share my screen. So if you guys are listening to this, you won't see it. But if you are watching this on YouTube, you will see this. A month later, so the first day was January 2024. A month later, she cut her expenses in half. This wasn't a place of, I'm just leaving everything to cut everything, and I'm not going to live a life, and I'm going to live in a bubble, and I'm not going to spend any money. This was a place of abundance. She realized she was wasting her money. She was a single mom with 2 jobs paying for a man. That man needed to go, as she says. I must be crazy. She's not. She said, not anymore. Time to pay off some debt. She's not crazy. She's dealing with very normal human things that happen to all of us. All of us go through things. All of us struggle with things. But for once in her life, she now could finally focus because she adjusts her budget to a value-based focus, not a scarcity-based focus where I'm just going to cut all my expenses and live in a hut. She realized she was just overspending. She cut her expenses in half. And I'm going to go up here a little more. 1 month after that, she paid off $10,000 of credit card debt. Feels really good. I will be opening my first ever high yield savings account tomorrow as well. I chose CIT Platinum Savings. Thank you for all the knowledge. Feels like stepping into the light from the dark place. This should be taught to everyone. Miranda's story isn't unique necessarily in the sense of, her experiencing this and nobody else having these same exact experiences. Most people experience exactly what she's experienced. I'm going to get to the good part here very shortly, but really what she's realizing right now is she made an investment in herself, number one. That's a huge step. That's the momentum point. And if you don't get there, you're never going to find momentum and you're always going to stay in the same place. You're going to stay in limbo. The second piece is she realized she does not owe anybody anything now. She paid off her debt. So she feels really good. And when you feel really good, you start to operate different. You start to look at the world different. You start to see opportunity versus damaging debt and things that are holding you back and feeling stressed and feeling anxious. When you don't have debt, you are a different person. I live this real time. I live this where when I was 23, I had $304,000 of debt. This is from all sorts of things. My mortgage, my student loan debt, the bed we slept in, cars, an engagement ring. You don't have to feel that way. And a lot of that stuff is very normalized. But that's why we stay in the same cycle as all the average Americans do. We need to get out of that bubble. We need to start to realize and we need to free ourselves from the chain that's holding us down. And so what happens is clarity and confidence. When you release any dead weight from you, and this could be anything, this could be a bad relationship, like Miranda mentioned, a toxic partner. This could be debt. This could be a business relationship or partnership that just isn't going well. And it's kind of holding you in the same spot. Release it. Do not wait. One of my biggest learning lessons was waiting too long to let people go in my life. I tried to make it work. I tried to figure out. I tried to change my life here and forced it to work versus just letting it go. And when Miranda let that toxic partner go, she cut her expenses in half instantly. She felt better. She paid off all that debt. This is where she will have the success, she'll have the clarity, and now she's going to have more opportunity. Because when I don't have something weighing me down, and I'm looking out in front of me, and I'm not looking to my rearview mirror constantly, but I'm looking out in front of me, guess what you're going to see? All of the opportunity in front of you. You're no longer going to be worried if somebody's on your tail, if somebody's holding you back. You're not going to look into the mirror. I'm going to share another personal story from the last 4 months of our life, our personal life. So I'm going to share bits and pieces of it. So you guys know, if you've been following me, that we had a severe mold and mycotoxin problem in our previous house. We moved across the country for Logan's health. She has Dravet syndrome, for anyone that doesn't know. It's a 1 in 16,000 rare genetic, epilepsy disorder. We are not victims. I will say that she was diagnosed, quote unquote. I don't believe that. I think it's a spectrum underneath, like anything in life, and I think that there is absolutely cures for this, although we are told there is no cure at this moment. That is BS. We don't accept that answer, and you will see us win. Anyways, with that being said, we moved across the country. When we moved across the country, we thought we were doing right by our daughter. We were moving across the country for her health to the best nation specialist for Dravet syndrome. Well, we get down here, the first 8 months, we were seizure-free. It was a phenomenal experience. Starting in August of 2023, seizures started happening very infrequently, every month, every 2 months or whatever. Into 2024, they sped up. Eventually, we found out mid-2024, we needed to find and get support because it started getting worse and worse. And we were like, there's no way Dravet syndrome is getting worse. We're doing exactly what we've always done. We've adjusted. We're very proactive. We're getting solutions. Why is she doing so poor? Well, once we took a blood and urine test, we realized it was mold and mycotoxins, to which we got tested in our house. And then therefore in December, we headed up to our functional neurologist. And as we were there, we got notice that our house had a mold and mycotoxin problem. For anybody in Texas, this was in the HVAC. This was not like a water damage thing or a self-inflicted thing. This is something that a lot of Texas houses deal with that we weren't familiar with because we weren't from Texas. We were from Cincinnati, Ohio. But this was a pretty common problem, supposedly. So we find out we have a mold and mycotoxin issue that's severe. That's mycotoxins are neurological. They hurt they're neurotoxins, so they hurt kids with neurological disorders. I can't speak. Now, My wife and I are also impacted. My other daughter is also impacted, but we are, you know, we don't have any neurological things going on. So like we are in the clear once we get out of this mold. Now mold's a serious issue, like a really serious issue, even for a very healthy individual. We've experienced a lot of symptoms. We're doing a detox as we speak right now. It's been a 4-month process. My wife's had some severe issues. I've had some severe knee issues as well. Inflammation, gut and brain is linked in a major way. So we've had gut issues. My daughter's had eczema, my other daughter. And Logan's had a host of issues, obviously, with giving her situation. But the problem is, when we went through that process, we were also trying to go forward. But we realized when we came down here, our goal was to go forward, but we had an issue in our house, and that was a big dead weight on us. We had a gut issue with my daughter, a severe mold and mycotoxin issue that is not even Dravet related. This is just another problem that's holding us down, just like our debt was. And I took a step back and I said, listen, Aaron, I know we want to go forward. I know we want to work with Josh up in Infinity in Iowa. Josh Madsen, if you guys have anybody with any neurological condition, please search Josh Madsen, Madsen, in Waukee, Iowa. Phenomenal service. We've been up there already. So anyways, we were preparing to go back up there, but we paused it in March because we had too big of a dead weight on us with Logan's mold gut detox. And so we're working with a nutritionist to get that cleaned up. And so we backed that up until it was actually in like beginning of March. We backed it up into May because we need to take care of her gut issue, because that gut and brain is very well linked. And if we don't take care of the gut issue, her brain suffers, and therefore we can't move forward. So we had to shed the dead weight, which is this mold and this gut detox. Similarly to Miranda, getting rid of that $10,000 credit card debt, getting rid of that toxic partner so that we can look forward. And now we're on the other end of this. But during this last 4 months, we lost our house. We lost everything in it because then, you can't keep your house. You can't live in your house, number one. You can't keep any of your stuff. We lost everything. All of our clothes, any soft surface you could imagine in the house is gone. Straight to the trash. Everything. Our dogs had to be basically, shaved entirely because they even had mycotoxins on their fur, which was getting in the air. So all of that being said, we had to get through this place of limbo, which was just straight struggle for 4 months. Again, I shared part of that story. We bought another house contingent on a mold and mycotoxin issue, and it had mold and mycotoxins. That day, we were in the hospital, in the ER, during an ice storm. I cannot make this story up. This is like straight on Netflix comedy. Man, I mean, it was just punch after punch after blow after blow. And for 4 months, from December to about mid-March, it's March 27th when I'm actually filming this right now. Man, we just had blow after blow after blow, but we kept fighting through because we had to shed this dead weight to be in a position of strength, to be able to give my daughter the most possible. And we fought tooth and nail for this whole entire thing, to where yesterday we officially negotiated a buyback with the builder. We're closing March 31st on the old house to sell back to the builder. I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I did some work on that strategy. It's not very common. Builders accept a buyback, but I took care of some business there. So we did find a way. It did feel like hell the last 4 months. I did have a lot of doubt. We did have a dead weight, but we had to fight through that dead weight to be able to go forward. And sometimes your losses feel 10 times worse than those wins. Sometimes you win, you go into the next, it feels like you're in that flow state, right? You go to a loss, that feels like eternity. And all in all, it's 4 months. But man, every single day we didn't have a house. I was working in the main room of a big kitchen, and my daughters were crying and screaming. I'm trying to build this business and do all these things. And dude, it was a lot. There were some breakdowns from my wife. Like, there was a lot going on. It was not easy. Not to mention we were dealing with a neurologically complex child, trying to prevent seizures this entire time. In the heart of winter with ice. I mean, dude, it was overwhelming to even think about it. But you got to let that go. You gotta get through those tough times. You gotta shed that dead weight, or you can't move forward because it's gonna hold you back so much. If we would have stayed in that house, my daughter would have severe issues. We would not be moving forward. We'd be in the same spot we were 4 months ago. But we had to fight through that. And sometimes the most grueling, crappy times are actually when you're growing the most. Why do they call it growing pains? When you're a kid and your joints are aching, it's because you're growing. When it sucks the worst, that's actually when you're growing. When you're making millions of dollars in your investments and you're paying off the debt and you're living a great life and everything's going smooth and you're on the beach sipping margaritas from all that struggle, that's not when you're growing. You can enjoy that. Absolutely enjoy that. Take your time. But you're not growing. You're kind of staying the same. You're experiencing all the wins that you had from all the losses. You got to lose to win. If you're afraid to lose, you're never going to win. And the bigger your losses are, the bigger your wins are, because you're going to feel 100 times different. That's what Miranda did. The third piece of this, which is super important, is she is now operating from a place of abundance versus a place of scarcity. I'm going to share another piece of her story, and this is kind of where the podcast title came from, is when she was working to get through this process. The biggest thing was all that baggage holding her down. When she released that, she accepted a new job at $500,000 per year. She shed her 3 part-time sales jobs because she was stretched too thin. She had a toxic partner. She had a bunch of credit card debt. She told Tom this morning how underwater I felt and now how much better she feels too. Hopefully this post can give someone else help. Today I made the decision to accept a full-time position at one of my part-time jobs. In this full-time, if I put in this work, I have the opportunity to make up to $500,000. She gets health and dental benefits, all that kind of stuff. I feel like a 500-pound weight was just lifted off my shoulders. Like I told Tom, just being here in Academy around motivated, like-minded people made me take accountability for my financial situation. I started making better financial moves. I cannot tell you how big of a deal this is and how much I can feel this in my soul. Because I've done this, I've lived this, I've felt this, and I've seen this play out with just 98 Mirandas. 100 million people are dealing with this stuff probably right now. You might be listening to this and you're like, man, this speaks to me because it's normal. And unless you address the normal situation, you're going to stay in the normal situation forever. And I don't want you to be like that. I want you to have opportunity to operate from a place of abundance. I will speak right now from real shit with you. When we were becoming financially free, there was a lot of times I didn't operate from a place of abundance. And I always told my wife, when I hit 2.5 million in our investments, when we truly become financially free, I'm going to start to operate differently. And I realized along the way that was silly because I was still millionaire plus, multimillionaire plus. I wasn't necessarily financially free at the time, but I was telling myself at a point in time, I'm going to operate from a place of scarcity. That is so stupid, but I'm stupid because I'm human. And what I realized is the more I kept that mindset of thinking, oh, in the future, I will feel this way versus just doing it today, operating today from a place of scarcity or from a place of abundance. And as soon as I changed that mindset to stop waiting for the time to feel good, I just started today. And I started getting all these opportunities. A company came to me and was like, hey, do you want to present to my company? I said, yeah, for $5,000, I would do it. I just shot my shot. If I fail, I fail. If they decline me, they decline me. Guess what? They said yes. There's another $5,000 in my pocket. I'm like, man, why not shoot another shot? Guess what I did yesterday? Literally, because I live this real time. A company came to me, asked me to present. I said, you know what? I asked for $5,000 last time. I looked up rates actually online. It was like national bestseller, the financial expert, the CPA background, all that kind of stuff. My reach, and I was like, I'm going to shoot for 10,000. Why not? Guess what? They declined me. They said no. Okay. So what? I learned that they declined me, but the next person is going to accept me. And if I keep asking for 10,000, somebody's going to accept me as my brand grows. And then I'm going to ask for 25,000. Then I'm going to ask for 100,000. Why not? I deserve it. I put the work in. I have the expertise. I've done the 10,000 hours. I can save you thousands of hours on your finances by fast tracking you. Why wouldn't I do that? I have the information. I have the education. I have the application. I'm able to change your life by millions of dollars. Hell yeah, I'm worth $100,000. I don't know what my cap is per se, but start to operate from a place of abundance. And a lot of the way you can do that is shedding the dead weight from you so that you can get the $500,000 job. You don't think that's unattainable because you search for the opportunity. And guess what? When you don't need it, things come to you. I can tell you right now, as I've progressed in my life from 22 to 33 in adulthood, really, even 18, but the more I needed something, the more I was forcing something to come my way. I was forcing the business to work. I was forcing to make money. I was forcing to quit my job. The less it came to me and the more grit and the more struggle it was, versus trusting in God and realizing He has a plan. He has a plan for you, but He wants you to shed that dead weight. He wants you to give you an opportunity. He's giving you everything. We have everything at our fingertips. If we keep operating from a place of scarcity because we're not letting the light in to our vessel, and we're sitting here trying to force things to happen and trying to make every single play on our own versus taking a step back, realizing we already have everything at our fingertips. It's just allowing it to come in, letting it come to you, attracting it. This isn't voodoo. This isn't manifestation in a sense. Like, it's just trusting in God, trusting in the plan, and removing all this bad, dead weight from you to allow you to experience life at a higher level. And the less I've needed stuff, the more money I've made. That is a real statement right there. My 0 to $1 million journey, while it was pretty quick all in all, it felt like a struggle. It felt like a long burn. I went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Man, that did not feel hard at all. That was just me being me, helping people out there, giving all I got, giving as much love as I can to people, showing people the way, giving people opportunities. And I've had so many opportunities come to me. There's been so many times where I've just been able to give, and I don't think about receiving because I don't need it. And if it comes to my way, sure, it comes to my way. I'll give you an example before we sign off today. One of my acquaintances in the industry was asking me how to do some back-end funnel stuff and back-end, technology stuff, how to link this to this and all this kind of stuff. And I built this from scratch. So I know every little detail on the internet of how to do things and how to back-end, use all these funnel type of things to basically bring your people into the right buckets so that you're guiding them in the right direction. Just think of it that way. So if you come in to watch my stuff, I'm going to say, okay, where are you at right now? Should you go to my podcast, my YouTube, stuff like that? Should you come into my Millionaire Club, my beginner stuff? Or should you go into my academy? So I'm serving my people. As they come in, they watch my information. I'll tell them, hey, here's where you should be based on where you're at. And I'm just serving them at the highest level. So I have this skill set to how to distribute everybody in the right way so I can serve them at the highest capacity. And one of my acquaintances came to me and said, hey, man, I really want to know the skill set, the technology side of things. Like, how do you make that happen? Like, just from a tech side. So I shared my entire outline. He's like, I'm like, let's hop on a call. Let's do an hour Zoom call. I did an hour Zoom call with him and his business partner. They were speechless. And by the end of that presentation, they go, dude, how do I pay you $15,000 for this? I go, don't worry about it. I don't need that. I just want to help you guys. I want to put you guys in a good position so you can serve people in your industry as well. They're in the real estate space. So I was like, you guys go into the real estate space, help people get into the real estate and use this tool, this knowledge, this education I provided for you guys to serve more people in your industry. I don't need any money. They're like, dude, you really need to go speak about this and charge $15,000 a pop, which is funny. Because they're telling me my market price based on that skill set, the education, the access I've had for a long period of time is now worth $15,000. I don't know what it's worth. But the thing is, I don't need it. So sure, if somebody wants to pay me, cool. But I don't need it at this point because I'm financially free. And when you're in a place of abundance, you don't need stuff. And everything's going to come to you because the Creator has given that to you. He's allowed you to accept the light, accept everything into you. You're going to start to win at a high level. And I want everybody to take this podcast today and realize that you need to shoot your shot. You need to take that shot. You're sitting on the sidelines right now. You're listening to this. You feel that momentum building up in your soul right now. You feel that motivation, but you still haven't taken the action to start your new business. You haven't taken the action to apply for the new job. You haven't asked that spouse out. You haven't ended that toxic relationship. You haven't started paying off your debt because you're scared, and that's okay. If I can help, sweet, I'm here. just reach out to me. Go to my show notes below, book a call with my team. If you want to come to my DMs, ask me questions, get on my IG lives, come to my free events every single Monday through Wednesday. Be my guest. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you in any possible way to get you over that hump, to make you take action. But if you use this podcast as motivation to start that journey, at least get that motivation enough to start, that's the hardest part. Everything from that moment will get easier and easier and easier. You'll have setbacks without question. We have setbacks to this day with different things, but we're able to overcome that because we've seen the science behind that. Setback 1, okay. Setback 2, okay. We know how to take 1 step back to go 5 steps forward every single time. We know those setbacks will get more, larger with time, because the bigger goals that you have, the larger your setbacks, the bigger the volatility. But that's God allowing you to accept more and more into your life. If you're able to overcome and deal with this much stress, this much pressure, you also have the potential to experience this much of wins, this much of gratitude, this much of abundance. But you have to experience the lows to experience the highs. And if you don't ever struggle, you never have anything you go through, the wins aren't going to feel as good. They're not even going to be worth it. They're going, oh yeah, I kind of expected that. Embrace the failure, embrace the losses. And as I talked about earlier in this podcast, the 3 things that Miranda, the lessons I want you guys to take away from this. Number 1, invest in yourself. Do not be scared. Number 2, you become free when you owe nobody. Pay off your debts. Let go of the baggage that's holding you back from experiencing everything. And number 3 is operate from a place of abundance versus a place of scarcity. When you apply those 3 principles into your life and you act like Miranda did, you will experience the results that Miranda got. With that being said, guys, I will see you guys next week.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brendan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.